Good night, everyone, and now, let's go to today's account, which is by Mr. Claudio, and this horror story happened to him in the city of Londrina, which is in the state of Parana, Brazil, and at that time it was in the year 2001. Mr. Claudio was just a teenager. And today I'm going to talk what happened to me, where I had a date with a terrible werewolf, but something worse happened because we found out that the werewolf was being controlled. And everything, it starts like this. In that time, I lived in a house that was a small farm, and by my village had many roads of land and wasteland. It was that sometime, a sorcerer, who was next door to my property, talked to my father to buy our little farm. In this, I stayed in the distance, watching my father talking to and if man. Finally, the sorcerer entered with my father in our backyard, and suddenly my father went to get some coffee for that man, and left the witch man alone in the pasture, and to my surprise, at that moment, the sorcerer made a hole in the ground fast, and saw that he buried something there. Then he threw some dried leaves on top of the hole, so no one would realize what he had done. But as I was just a adolescent, I didn't even care about it, and soon I went to do my duties. However, the hours went by, and then I heard that my father didn't close a deal with the wizard. Well, I didn't want my father to sell our farm because I liked rural life. When I went out of the room for a few days, it was that one night I was in the room with my father watching a movie, and as soon as I went out of the room to go to sleep, I saw through the window to a strange figure of a huge animal, which was in the backyard of our house. With that I called my father, and he looked out the window too, and you see that creature was behind some bushes, and that kept looking towards our house, and our dogs didn't even notice that animal over there. And seeing that this animal was huge and seemed to be dangerous, my father did not expect you, and soon he went to his room to get his gun, and at that moment that animal began to walk in our backyard, and he also sniffed the ground, but then this beast began to dig the ground, and it looked like he was trying to find something. But the strange thing is, the hole that creature was making, it was right in place, where the wizard would have buried something. But at that moment, my father left the house with his rifle in his hands, but I watched him through the window, and my father was a good distance from the invading animal. However, this beast was hidden behind several wooden trunks. My father then pegged some stones on the ground, and began to throw to hit that animal. The creature began to growl with anger, and it was there that this animal came out from behind the wooden trunks, and he stood in the direction of my father. At that instant I took a fright, for me, that beast was very much like a furry monkey, and I panicked even more. It was with brilliance that this being had in his eyes, which were lit as if they were two lights. And this beast surprised my father, for Andrew did not run with the highs that my father threw in him, and even more, this beast began to face my father, and the beast was nervous, and already in a way of wanting to attack. My father vind what things I'd laugh atm and well, he aimed his rifle in the direction of this creature, and the animal vindo the gun, that in a strange way, got up fast and stood, only on two legs as if it were a man. The fact is that this beast began to walk standing, but he quickly and hid behind a tree, but he was still looking at my father. I was amazed to see this creature doing it, because it was something clever, and it seemed that it knew what a firearm was. Well, my father was moving away from the werewolf, and he kept aiming at the gun in the direction of this monster. As soon as my father got a good distance from the creature, then he started shooting toward the beast, but the werewolf cleverly didn't come out from behind the tree, and the shots just hit the tree trunk. The problem is, the rifle ammo ran out, and my dad ran out of the pasture, and he made it home, and we both put the closet and the couch in the door to reinforce the entrance to protect ourselves from the werewolf. At that time, my father was very frightened and worried about the creature, but still, he stared out the window. Soon, we began to listen to our dogs barking through the pasture. Well, we're afraid of the werewolf, and I didn't see this monster in the backyard anymore. Suddenly, I saw my wizard neighbor looking out his window toward our farm, but I think he woke up to the noises of the gunshots. In the house, we were going through a moment of terror, and my father calmed my mother, who was very afraid too. But I looked out the window again, and I saw the wizard, and he was watching us through his window. In this I saw the creature again, spinning around our place. The werewolf, it seemed to be programmed to enter our backyard, and that being was looking for something on my farm. At last, he would come in and out of the thicket, and he'd look at my house, but he didn't want to take any chances, trying to get in my backyard again and get more shotgun shots. And this terror, which we were going through, was until about 4 o'clock in the morning, and it seemed that the creature, whether it was going to something on our property, finally the werewolf went away, and I didn't see this beast anymore. Passing some time, dawned and the day came, and my family was all shaken by the werewolf who attacked us, and we were also worried, because this creature could come back any day. But what happened in the afternoon, our neighbor wizard, who wanted to buy my father's farm, this man showed up on our property, and he and my father talked for a while, and then the wizard left. My father said that he did not do business with the neighbor, and that we would not leave our farm for any money, or because of the werewolf. In that instant I remembered something, and I spoke to my father what the sorcerer did in the other day, because this neighbor would have buried something in our backyard when my father got distracted to get coffee. With this, I also showed him the place where the sorcerer would have buried something. And no, my father took a tool and started digging the ground until we found a bag pequeño, which the neighbor put in that hole, and my father said it was salt, and he became very suspicious of it all, and he jogged or the salt sacco upon the sorcerer's house. I didn't quite understand what was going on, and my father didn't tell me anything about what was going on, and he was very angry with our neighbor. I just suspected that the buried salt was some evil magic against my family. It's been a few days, but luckily, the werewolf didn't show up. Certain morning, soon I saw some police vehicles at the house of our neighbor wizard, and I and my father, we went to see what was happening in the house of our neighbor, and getting there were many people on the street, wondering what happened. The police was already carrying the body of the wizard out of the house, and these military asked the people of our street, who was looking occurred, if anyone would have seen some large animal through the neighborhood in the early hours, but no one saw anything. My father at that time, Myuu of that place amazed, pois he learned that an animal would have killed the sorcerer, and is the beast, climbed on the roofs of our neighbor, and he ended up breaking the telhas, and fell right in the sorcerer's room, where he slept at that moment, and the animal ended up attacking this man. With this tragedy, my family was very devastated, and especially my father. With all this happened, the cops and the fire department tried to find the creature that took my neighbor's life, but they didn't find anything. With the time passing, my parents ended up selling our property, and we went to live in the city. Well, it's been several years of this story. Since I'm already a grown man, I know more or less what happened. In the story of the werewolf, that wizard wanted to buy my father's place, and he didn't want to sell, so the sorceress somehow arranged that salt and managed to attract the werewolf up to our property to scare my family and make my father see our property, but gave everything a rat's plan of the sorcerer. My father found the salt buried and threw it on top of the witch's neighbor's house, and sure enough, it was the werewolf looking for the salt, went to his residence, and attacked him, and with that, the spell that programmed the werewolf to kill us turned against the wizard. At least that's what I think happened. Thanks to everyone who watched the video, and if you liked it, subscribe to the Fear Zone channel, and leave your likes to receive more stories of werewolves.